Okay, so welcome to episode number 4 of the vlog. We're here to help um, Jews make Aliyah, Olim that are coming to Israel. Sitting here with Yaacov Epstein. Yaacov is sitting in his office in Jerusalem, and he's going to tell us more about that. So just tell me a couple lines about yourself, where you're from, where's your family from, where you're currently living. Let's start with some personal stuff.
Hey, thank you, Donny, and hi, and thanks for hosting me. So I'm actually Israeli. I was born and raised in Israel to American parents. My mother's actually from Canada. My father's from New York. But my wife is from Scotland, and I see that as an advantage in two ways. First of all, the fact that I'm aware of, I deal mainly, of course, with English-speaking clients, and therefore I'm aware of the Aliyah process and what Olim go through. My wife has gone through it, and I know, and I've seen it through her eyes and her stories. In addition, I see the advantage of me being Israeli, native Israeli. I speak the language, I understand all the intricacies and how things work in Israel. I'm able to deal with Israelis as an Israeli. If needed to shout, I can do that as an Israeli.
All right, so great. So I definitely, after working with you on quite a few deals, I could definitely vouch for that. You definitely understand both sides, the Anglo and the Israeli side. So that's very interesting. Your wife is Scottish. I'm just curious, did you guys meet in Israel, or where did you guys meet?
Yeah, we met in Israel. My wife made Aliyah in her teens, and then finished school here in Israel. And then afterwards, we were actually set up by a neighbor of hers who knew me, knew my family. We were set up. We dated for a few months, and the rest is here history.
Awesome, awesome, love that. All right, so tell me, let's jump into some business related matters. What's the name of your company? Tell us what you're doing. What makes you different?
Okay, so I'm my Epstein Co. That's the name of my firm. What's unique and different by me, first of all, I deal mainly, 95 clients are Anglos, buying in Israel, from them Anglos who live in Israel, buying from far. And my specialty is helping English-speaking clients purchase in Israel and also deal with any of their other legal matters in Israel. I help my clients buy, sell, anything that's connected to the legal aspects in Israel. I'm there to hold their hand as a one-stop shop. If it's something that I'm not able to deal with, of course, I refer on and I can help my clients deal with whatever they have to deal with. Now, in my firm, we have 3 other lawyers working for me, paralegals, and the idea is a one-stop shop that we hold your hand from beginning to end. Israel is known with its bureaucracy and its Israeli style of doing things.
Yep.
And my goal with my clients is basically make it as easy, as simple as possible. I take all the load off my clients' shoulders. I deal with the bureaucracy and I handhold you through the whole process of, let's say, purchasing or selling or whatever else, anything else you have to do in Israel.
All right, amazing. I could certainly vouch for that as well. I'm just curious, how did you start your company? You were obviously, I'm sure, working for a firm beforehand. How did Epstein Co begin? And you've grown so far, or especially in the last few years that I've known you. Let's talk about that a little bit.
So I always had that urge to do a lot more and to help my clients. And I felt that as working for the previous employers, I wasn't able to accomplish that and assist my clients the way I believe they should be helped. I wanted to help them more, hold their hand, help them with every single piece of the process, and do it in a much higher level than what I've seen with around me, where I've worked, and with my colleagues. So I left and I opened up my own firm where I just up the level of service that my client's supposed to be receiving. I believe it's supposed to be receiving, and it's going very well. I think I can see that my clients appreciate what I'm offering, which is different and unique. And Baruch Hashem, things are going well and growing.
Okay, and the other lawyers in your firm, they're Israeli, they're American. What's their MO?
So they're Israelis. So I believe it's also important to know, and when you negotiate, you have to negotiate like an Israeli. So I I took Israelis that know the Israeli system and the Israeli way of doing things. That way they can negotiate best for my clients. And they speak English, so therefore they're able to communicate with my clients if needed. But mostly I deal with the clients directly, and they're in the background doing the legal work.
All
Legal
right,
work,
excellent.
and the more of the technical aspects of transactions.
Sounds like you have a great setup over there. I've been in your office. I know it's a nice office. It's very comfortable. Can you tell me what are the challenges that you've encountered, or what's the biggest challenge you've encountered in helping Olim buy or sell a home in terms of, I guess, the bureaucracy of Israel?
So there's the bureaucracy, but there's also the culture shock. Things are different here, very different than what, let's say, Olim from America or American clients are used to. What is closing? When do you transfer the money? Is there an escrow account? How do you pay the seller? What's a bank check? How do you pay contractors if you buy on paper? We have these bank slips. We have a totally different system than what my clients are used to in the US. And that's one of the first things I do. I try to gap that difference, explain to them how it's done here. And then throughout the process, of course, each time that something has to be done, we hold their hand through that process because it's different. They've never done it. I don't want them to fall any pit holes, and do mistakes. Some mistakes can cost you money. If you're late on a payment to your contractor because you don't know how to transfer money to Israel, or you don't know how the payments are supposed to be done, and you aren't aware of the bureaucracy in Israel, you could be late and you could incur penalty. So I've done this thousands of times, probably, sorry, 2,000 times probably. And therefore, I've done it. I know how to do it the right way, that you'll do it right the first time without any mistakes.
Okay, that sounds great. What would you say is the biggest difference between buying a home in the US? You just touched on it a little bit, between buying a home in the US and buying a home in Israel.
So there's two different main key differences. We have three actually. The process is it's just a process to buy. It takes a few months, and
Right.
back and forth. There's no standard in Israel, nothing standardized. So every transaction is new, every transaction is different, and every transaction you have different things going on. That's the first thing. The second thing is, when is closing? So in Israel, our closing is actually at the beginning. When you sign, that's your closing. Yes, you haven't received possession, you haven't paid in full, but for any other aspect, that is your closing.
Right.
You have to pay your taxes within 60 days of signing, although you haven't yet paid your seller. And it could be, let's say you buy on paper, you're only going to pay 80% in 2-3 years down the line, but you're paying your taxes today. It's weird.
It's almost laughable. It's almost laughable.
Yeah, but it's a different system. You pay your lawyer, your mortgage broker, like right away, and you pay your real estate agent. It's a different system.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see it every day. It's at some point you just have to start laughing about it and realize that this is the reality, and accept it. This is the way things are over here. You want to say something?
And the last thing is just the mortgage. In Israel, the seller is very much involved in you getting a mortgage. So while in the US, you're not even connected to the other side's mortgage, the buyer's mortgage. So here, depends on if it's on paper or secondhand, we're very much involved, and he has to agree, and we ensure that in the contract. And the fact that we don't have any contingency as a contract is also something that my clients aren't aware of. There's no mortgage contingency, there's no inspection and things like that. So those are, in general, the things that are different. Of course, we could talk about this for 2 hours and I won't finish.
Can you tell me, you could pick something that happened years ago or recently, a success story. What was a client of yours had a problem, or and how you were able to help them solve it? Tell us some wild story that ended well, that you were able to help a client. I'm sure you have many. Just, what's the first one that comes to your mind?
The first one that comes to mind is something actually that just happened to me 2 weeks ago. A client of mine bought on paper, but he bought it from a seller. I mean, someone who bought the apartment on paper, hasn't yet paid it full, and then sold it to my client, which is something in general that doesn't really happen that much in Israel, but it was allowed in our case, and it's complicated. You have to know what you're doing. And I was very tough. The seller was connected to a few other sellers that were doing it together with a specific company. And the lawyer who represented the seller did the same transaction with 5 other sellers within the same 2 weeks. And I negotiated on behalf of my client, and I was very tough with him, and the Israeli style way, and negotiate. I got unbelievable contract. In addition, I was able to get the seller to absorb 150,000 shekels of expenses.
Wow.
Index and all kinds of things that are connected.
Not easy.
And it was a big fight. So at the end, we signed, And after the signing, the lawyer comes up to me and my client, and he tells my client, you should just know that a week ago I signed the same contract with a different lawyer. And Yaacov, you won't even believe what he did for you. But other than all the legal stuff and ensuring your safety, he also got my seller to take that 150,000 shekels upon himself. So that was a great success, and I'm glad that my client was also aware of what was done on his behalf.
That must have made you feel really good, and I'm sure your client was very happy. How about a story, something that was a secondhand purchase, not that was a pre-construction? What about something that's because it's also difficult even to buy something secondhand over here.
Right. So in secondhand, many times we do an inspection and we find leaks, we find problems, we find issues in the property, which is normal. Every property has something. And in Israel, unfortunately, the sellers don't take the sellers try to pass over the buck and allow the buyers to deal with it. And many times we negotiate, and I must say that I've succeeded many times to have the seller to commit to different aspects in the transaction. For example, a seller that will be signing next week, there was a leak from the roof. We got the seller to fix the leak, to paint it, to do whatever's needed. That way the buyer will come into a nice, beautiful home without dealing with all the issues.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a big one. Yaacov, you do an amazing job. I appreciate you being here, giving us some insight into the Israel real estate world. We're going to continue interviewing other people. If anybody out there listening, if you have anybody specific that you'd like me to interview, if you have any specific questions for Yaacov or for me or for anybody else that I've interviewed until now, please feel free to reach out. In the meanwhile, Yaacov, if you could just tell our listeners or the viewers, what's the best way to reach out to you or somebody in your office?
You can reach me by WhatsApp. My number in Israel is +972 for Israel, 5464222750. I respond by WhatsApp right away, or by email, y@epsteinlaw.co.il. Okay,
Yaacov, again, thank you so much for being with us today, and continue to help bring more Jews to Israel, and continue to do more deals together. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.